Exploring the unknown, from conspiracies to mysteries. You are entering the conspiracy sector. Well, welcome everyone to this very special program. I am your host, Aubrey Batchelor, and joining me sailing this divine, amazing, grand ship of knowledge is Chris Jacobs, and you are entering the conspiracy sector. Today, we have a very adventurous show ready for you. It's going to be diving in the realms of mysterious hidden treasures that are found mainly in North America, but we're going to talk about worldwide treasures and kind of incorporate other things alongside of it. This is going to be a very realistic Indiana Jones-like experience, and we're sure to dive deep into some of these legends for you. And there's plenty to talk about when it comes to hidden treasures. And the ironic thing is we've kind of predicted a future event maybe regarding one of these treasures to just, not really go hunting for it, but we'll go take some photographs and visit and take some videos of the area and do maybe a live show there. Perhaps sometime we might be able to camp at the legendary Superstitious Mountain Range and really, try to go exploring and kind of dive into some of the lore and feel the lore. And in regards to that, well, I'll give an update a little bit later. I disappointedly couldn't find anything about what I had seen in regards to this update with the Superstitious Mountain Lost Dutchman gold mine. But we'll dive into a little bit of it and give you an update on what I can recollect when it comes to it and information that we both know about these such said treasures and the lore surrounding them. Chris, what do you think about mysterious treasures?
Oh yeah, I myself, have looked into a couple of things such as like the Superstition Mountains and also like things like the Ark of the Covenant and things of that nature. And one of the things, the Ark of the Covenant was quite fascinating when I started, viewing through history, doing what I do. I started looking into things of that nature, and it was actually a piece of technology that was grounded in particular timelines. It would kind of control the flow of time in some fashion. It would direct the flow of time or the flow of like fortune in someone's favor or out of someone's favor. And so where they said it actually is. It's in Ethiopia. The physical one is in Ethiopia. I came to find out, but other versions of it have popped up. Not only because somebody has replicated it, but it's an out of time sync. So somebody has different temporal versions of it in different places. That's why so many versions have popped up. It's a device that was created by aliens quite a long time ago. And to actually have that form of control, and it was put in place as a mystical object, but it's a piece of technology that has almost like a nuclear signature to it. That's why it has had basically radiation in its wake as well. It had become unshielded or damaged at some point, and the people began to get sick from it.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I came to find that out now with the superstitions. This is something that I found it's creepy, but at the same time, it's interesting. There's two parts to this. There's I found out the Apache tribe here in Arizona actually lays claim to gold, and that they've actually they discovered it, but I don't believe they've moved it. And there's also the other component is there's reptilians that hang out in the superstitions. That I found out they had a nursery up in the superstitions. And what led me to that conclusion is there was a case that there was a case where they found two skeletons at the top or near up in the Superstition Mountains. They found these two skeletons with these two holes in the back of the head, kind of like a snake. They're like a snake bit like this.
Was it drained of blood or anything like that?
They couldn't tell because the bones had been there while they were completely bleached, like in the sun. But what had happened was they saw the rib cage was cracked on both of them as well. And what happens when some of these creatures attack people? They'll come from behind and bite, and then they crack the rib cage like that when they grab somebody from behind. So
strength.
Yeah, and that's where they found these two skeletons, and they did a genetic test on them to see who they were. And they were two college students that had wandered up into the superstitions looking for the treasure. They figured at first they died from some kind of dehydration or something like that, because they noticed the bones, something in the bones, the nutrients had been drawn from
Hmm.
them. But that's what the two holes in the back of the head were. Whoever it was vampired the nutrients out of them.
So whatever mortician or doctor did the autopsy, we think it was dehydration, but we're not sure.
Yeah, that's that was the
We can't
problem.
explain the two holes in the back of the head.
Yeah, exactly. They went with the dehydration and malnutrition thing, because but they never really completely touched on the holes in the back of the head. But knowing these cryptids the way I do, I knew how they attacked somebody from behind and did that.
Hmm.
So it was I knew it was them up there, and I came to find out with working with galactics and everything that that was a place where reptilian creatures hung out up there in the
Hmm.
mountains. Yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me. It just goes to show. I mean, everybody just think of how immense nature can be, all the different areas from desert regions to Arctic regions to tropical regions. Just think about if you're in the middle of a jungle or the middle of a mountain range all by yourself, surrounded by nature. Imagine how amazing but frightening also that can be. Mother nature always wins, and going in search of treasures, I think that's where a lot of people get extremely fascinated with, because they are fantastical. But there's nothing like discovering a treasure that's been left behind that's worth millions of dollars, that hasn't been touched or seen by human hands for many, 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 many hundreds or possibly thousands of years.
Hmm.
And the fascination behind that's absolutely immense. And uh, that's in regards to a few of these stories. I found an update in regards to another North American treasure, the Forrest Fenn treasure, who many people are aware of. And we'll dive into a little bit of these treasures. I found a pretty nice article that'll wrap it all up real quick for all the viewers. And for those that know and don't know, I'll give you kind of a tidbit of information in regards to all these amazing treasures that are still out there, and some of them ready to be found. But that requires tremendous skill, resources, patience to be careful, and be aware of your surroundings. And that's where a lot of people die in search of these treasures. There's been many that have perished in search of, riches, I guess, per se. Reminds me of a poem. I should figure it out. It's a poem by Edgar Allan Poe. It is The City of Gold, but what is it? I forget. I'll have to see if I can't get into
Isn't
the
that the
book
one?
here.
Isn't that about El Dorado?
El Dorado, yeah, the road to El Dorado. That's it. Yeah, yeah, that was a good one. Reminds me of that. It kind of creates a nice treasure, image in your mind, and it helps you get in the setting, for such that thing. And speaking of the devil, when it comes to that, I must ask, what is your favorite Indiana Jones movie out of all four of them?
For me, out of all four of them, the third one, The Last Crusade.
You know what? You and I are resonating in the same frequency there, because that would probably be mine. I just, something about it all, the horseback riding into the sunset, thinking it's going to be the last one. And here we are thinking that there's wind in Hollywood that he's going to come back for another one. I'm thinking, is he going to be in a wheelchair in this one? Or, he's still in pretty good shape for an old guy. But I'd say mine's the third too. And, I want everybody to comment their favorite Indiana Jones film. We'll see which one wins, I guess, per se, out of all of them, because a lot of people, really do like each one. A lot of people bash a fourth, but it was pretty good too, in its own way. The
Mhm.
Crystal Skull, it's a cool
Oh yeah, it was
storyline.
about the aliens and the Crystal Skull.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually decent. There's also a little known fact that people don't know. There is a something very large hidden in the Grand Canyon. This It's a large Mayan city that was in the Grand Canyon. That's
Hmm.
actually buried. There's a pyramid structure and everything there that's in military controlled territory at the moment. And it's actually I don't know which rim of the Grand Canyon it's in, but there's also cave accesses to it that the military block off. If you find these cave openings, the military either turn you around or they abduct you. And
Hmm.
that's where some of the missing people go too, is they wander into the Grand Canyon, and then they're gone. Either sometimes they get lost, genuinely lost, or they wander into this area where this old city was. And it was technologically advanced. It was to the point where there's a portal that the military surrounded a base around, and there's a large set of pyramidal structures there
Hmm.
that very few people know about. It's an old Mayan city that had technological alien attributes to it, and that's why the military took control of it.
I wonder what a lot of those obelisks were. I wonder if there's any of those in the Grand Canyon, that obelisks, kind of thing that was going on here
Oh
a
yeah.
year back. I think some of them are mysterious, but some of them almost seem, uh, implanted. I don't know,
Oh
for
yeah, they're definitely like antennae that radiate earthly energies, like the orgone pieces that we make. They intake the earthly energies and their power
hmm,
devices like antennae. Now, in nowadays, the cabal uses those as more of a dampening field. You'll see these things in like graveyards. You'll see some of the obelisks pop up, and one kind of almost energetically stands out. You'll see some by businesses in Washington, D.C., of course, the biggest one, the Washington Monument. It's the same as the 5G towers, where it's letting out a particular, almost like a 3D or third density dampening field over
hmm,
everything. And they also use them for communications as well. Like if they need a communication antenna, they'll put them in place like that. But the shape, the perfect shape of an obelisk, radiates the energy in a particular way that they need for their 0 point energy devices and such.
hmm,
And that's why pyramids work as well, because it's like essentially a pyramid on the tip of like a big rectangle, essentially.
hmm.
And these things are used to also create soul traps for ghosts and such too,
Hmm.
because this is something that I've
No
spoken
wonder
about.
they contain so much energy.
Oh yeah, this is why also it's a type of stone technology that was given to them by aliens, where it's compressed granite and crystal to where it's a dimensional form of technology, and that means they can trap ghosts with it as well. And the reason the corporations and the cabal want to do that is because they trade the energies to aliens that take those energies back to their own planets and their own
Hmm.
biospheres to incarnate them on their own worlds. And I saw one of these in Washington, D.C. at Arlington Cemetery, of all places.
Hmm.
Um, and it was there was one there, and there's some of them in some cemeteries, and it's not all of them.
And just think, for the general population, including myself, probably, you can just be walking along, they're hidden in plain sight,
Mhm.
in a way,
They have to see
Right.
sunlight too, so they're hidden in plain sight.
And you
They
just
have to
walk
see.
by it and you don't even, you might notice it, but you don't realize the power that it contains,
This is
for a
this is
certain
the
purpose.
weird part. When I was in Georgia one time, I was with Joanna in the state of Georgia. We were out in the middle of nowhere,
Hmm.
and we saw an obelisk, a lone obelisk,
Hmm.
sitting on top of a hill. It was a black one, and it was sitting on top of a hill, just middle of nowhere, had no reason to be there. And that was one of those devices that the cabal had set up to form a dampening field. But then I turned around to try to get a picture of it. We tried to turn around and go get a picture of this thing, and it disappeared. It was gone.
Hmm.
So it had faded into a frequency where we could see it, and it drifted out. So there are some that are invisible too.
Hmm.
There's more of them that are invisible that you don't see.
Yeah. It'd be something, you're just walking out in the middle of nowhere and you run into something invisible. Ow. Am I the only person on earth to walk into something invisible and get a black
I'd be
eye?
willing to bet that you're not. I know some people have entered buildings and structures that are invisible, and then they end up disappearing too, either through that or
Hmm.
through portals too.
Some of the missing 411 phenomenon.
That's what's happened there. It falls into the missing and mysterious objects category.
And I'd be interested to see, I know this is probably a very tiny category, but I wonder how many treasure hunters may have fallen into the 411 category. That's something that hasn't been talked about, is, thrill seekers and treasure hunters. I wonder how much of that critique and, that field of people might
Mhm.
fall into that missing 411 phenomenon.
Oh
It'd
yeah.
be interesting to, wish I could ask Dave Polides himself, but that's something he probably wouldn't even know. But, he'd know of, certain cases that might, pertain to that, I imagine. But
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's a whole show in and of itself is the missing 411. But yeah, I have my intuition is telling me it's quite a few like treasure hunters that stumble onto some old site or alien site, hidden site, or government controlled site. And there's also to shift gears slightly. There's been a lot of like things that come up about Oak Island too, about the treasures of
That's
Oak
strange
Island.
too.
Yeah, and
And a lot of people are aware of the Oak Island mystery, for those that are. Yeah, it's a where is it at on that island? Is it washed away? Is it still there? Is it just nothing? Is it a lot of something? There's a lot of different ranges with Oak Island. It's very mysterious.
Oh yeah, the energy's there. We watched the show about Oak Island and the Curse of Oak Island. You can feel the energies there. It's definitely somebody. It feels like somebody is toying with them, like shifting and moving stuff around there. It feels
Hmm.
like there's a consciousness toying with them a little bit.
Hmm.
You can kind of barely get a grasping on it, but it feels like somebody is kind of dancing them around the island a little bit.
Jerking in different directions.
Yeah, that's what it feels like to me. You can't get a grasp on who, but it's like you can just feel that somebody's yanking their chain a little bit.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, let me dive on into this. I'll share this little first article here. It's pretty good. I have a are you seeing it now?
No.
Oh, let me go here then.
Turn that on. Yes, I did. Okay.
There we go.
There we are. There we are.
Boom. Well, this is I want to give a quick update after I talk about this too. This is from www.rd.com, and it's an article by Lauren Kahn. Hidden treasures are everywhere. Hidden treasures aren't just for pirates, movies, and pirate movies. There's actually treasure buried right here in the United States. While some buried treasures have been found, there's still plenty out there just waiting to be discovered by metal detectors, shovel hunters, and puzzle-solving mine seekers. Are you brave and patient enough to venture out in search of lost wealth? Alternatively, you might luck out and stumble over some treasure like these people who found valuable items by accident. Found. This is the update. Forrest Finn's Deadly Rocky Mountain Challenge. About a decade ago, 85-year-old Forrest Finn allegedly hid what experts estimated to be $5 million worth of gold, jewelry, and artifacts in a small bronze chest somewhere in the Rocky Mountains. In his cryptic poem, The Thrill of the Chase, Finn dropped clues as to where the whereabouts of this hidden treasure and inspired thousands of adventurers and treasure hunters to go searching. Sadly, some even died trying. There's some of those treasure hunters right there we just got done talking about. In June of 2020, the treasure was finally found by a man who chose not to be named. And see, I found I randomly came across a news interview with this and the Superstitious Mountain Lost Dutchman gold mine. Now I can't find him anywhere. Couldn't find him anywhere. I searched for an hour and a half and couldn't find anything. Seen it and it just vanished. The interviews did.
Oh,
Kind of
that
weird.
happens. So things like that get canceled like that fairly quick. If it touches on anything that is legitimate or real, they seem to cancel it fairly quickly.
Yeah, what the hell? Yeah, I had like yeah, I'll talk about this maybe at the end of the show. Oh, the dogs are upset now. Even the dogs get upset with that. In June of 2020, the treasure was finally found by a man who chose not to be named, perhaps understandably, as he was suddenly $5 million richer. On his website, Finn wrote it was under a canopy of stairs in the lush forested vegetation of the Rocky Mountains, and it had not moved from the spot where I had hit it more than 10 years ago. Instead of a poem, Finn might have considered putting the message of his hidden treasures into a painting instead, she says. And there's this is the Beale ciphers. That's another good one. But let me give another quick update with Forrest Finn before we get to the Beale ciphers.
All right.
Now, Forrest actually just died too after the treasure was found. That's kind of strange. Santa Fe, New Mexico is where he lived, and apparently he hid the Wyoming treasure. A French treasure hunter had sued the estate of Santa Fe, New Mexico antiquities dealer, who sparked a years-long search across the American West by hiding a chest filled with gold coins and other valuables. Bruno Raffos is seeking $10 million in a complaint filed last week in the U.S. District Court in New Mexico. So he had stress in his life too, and that might have led to his declining health. But the lawsuit comes a year after another man found the treasure in Wyoming. And see, this was some guy from Michigan or New Jersey, if I remember correctly, that had found his treasure. He ended up figuring it out and ended up finding it. But in his autobiography, The Thrill of the Chase, Finn said he buried the chest somewhere in the Rocky Mountains north of Santa Fe. His book included a poem that contained clues on where the chest was hidden. For a decade, thousands of people roamed the Rockies in search of the treasure, estimated to be worth at least $1 million. Several treasure seekers had to be rescued from a precarious situation, and as many as 6 had died. Ralpho's lawsuit is just the latest legal claim to be spurred by the treasure hunt. A number of people have sued, alleging Finn betrayed them or gave misleading clues. So he had a lot of stress in his life, could be too. But Raffos said that he used the clues to determine Finn's treasure was in southwestern Colorado. He informed Finn he solved the puzzle and was on his way to retrieve the chest. However, his plans were derailed by a coronavirus pandemic, and Finn announced a short time later that the treasure had been found. Finn died in September at age 90 without saying who found the chest or specifically where. Finn's grandson confirmed in December that Jonathan Jack Stoof, a 32-year-old medical student from Michigan, discovered it. Finn said before his death that the treasure was in Wyoming, but neither Stoof or Finn's relative has specified where. So kind of a weird ending when it came to the mysteries behind Forrest Finn's treasure. To me, it almost feels like was it a gimmick all along? He just knew that he was getting ready to die from all the stress, and he said, "Hey, give it to this guy, tell him where it's at, and we'll create a store."
Yeah, I've
Was it
heard
an
something
honest
like that.
find? I don't know what to think of it. So it was kind of a weird ending when it came to this update, I feel.
Yeah, my intuition is telling me that there's some there's nefarious stuff behind this. Like there's a bit of a scam behind this, where there may have been something legitimate, but he was toying with people more or less to get maybe a little bit of publicity, but it backfired a little on him, where it caused more stress.
Never mind. I must say, R.I.P. Forrest Finn, and lights out.
Okay.
And then we'll go over here real quick. I wanted to pick up on. Let me scroll down a little bit. There's got to be. We'll get to the Beale ciphers. We'll let that go for a little bit. Some of these we'll just skim over. Do they have anything about? Well, let's just talk about the Superstition Mountain Ranges real quick. I want to talk about those.
Okay.
I thought that would be kind of cool just because, that's right where we were down by. We've seen the mountain ranges from Phoenix there when we were at the gardens. And, we could probably see it from our live ghost hunt at Governor Hunt's tomb. Mm-hmm. We have binoculars, I imagine, to even think about that. But you might be able to see it from there as well. But the Superstition Mountain Range has fascinated me ever since I was a little kid. I heard about it for the first time when I was probably 7 or 8, and got into it more when I was a teenager. Remembered it, I guess, per se, and seen a few things about it. And then I've never actually visited the area, but reading about it and hearing people go searching about it, and seeing it in a telescope, I guess. It was all right and enlarged it a little bit, but it's a very mysterious area. And the Lost Dutchman Trails, here is actually an article from ArizonaStateParks.com in regards to the Lost Dutchman Trails. I just want to give people an in-depth view if they want to go hiking there. And there is an update with the Lost Dutchman mine. I seen an interview about probably 4 or 5 months back. And it was from a team from New Jersey. I think that's where I was getting confused. That other guy was from Michigan. This team was from New Jersey, and they've been taking a trip out to this area every year and trying to go in search of this treasure with all the clues and everything that had been left behind and whatnot. They claim to have found it in a tiny little area, like some of the information suggests, a tiny little hole that they accessed. And they claim to have found it, and they say that they were going to give more updates, but I try to Google it probably once a month. I really just haven't came across anything in the little bit of time that I've spent trying to search for it. I just haven't found anything. And I wanted to find a video with that article or that interview because it was a pretty good little interview. And he dove into what him and his team had been doing, but unfortunately I couldn't find it anywhere. But this will give you a little bit of information if you ever want to come out here. Just pack a lot of water and be careful, I guess.
Mhm.
Superstitious mountain trails traverse through Arizona's most beautiful Sonoran desert landscape, and the hiking trails at Lost Dutchman State Park are a great place to begin your adventure. Just a stone's throw from the Phoenix metro area, these trails give hikers a sense of solitude in a relatively remote setting. There's a native plant trail that features beautiful native plants, of course, and a variety of kala, prickly pear, Acotilo, and more will line your path, and names and pronunciations on labels to guide you along. Make sure you ask for the native plant trail guide at the ranger station for plant description as well. There's a treasure loop trail length that's 2.4 miles round trip, rated moderate elevation change of 500 feet. It terminates at either picnic area. Prospector's View Trail, that's zero point 0.7 miles, rated moderate, connects a Siphon Don Trail and Treasure Loop Trail, also connects with Jacob's Crosset Trail, which Jacob's Crosset Trail runs zero point 0.8 miles along the base of the mountain, rated easy, connects to Treasure Loop Trail with Prospector's View Trail and continues 4.5 miles past the park area along the base of the Superstitions. So these views would be absolutely spectacular. And the Siphon Drawn Trail is 4 miles round trip, very scenic hike. The trail winds up into the canyon known as Siphon Draw. It's possible to hike up the Flatiron, 5.8 miles round trip, although it is not a designated maintained trail all the way, so it's probably going to be rough. It's advised that only experienced hikers in good shape attempt to hike to the top, as the climb is steep and difficult to follow. Allow at least 5 hours for the Flatiron hike up and back. Holy moly. Discovery Trail connects the campground and day use areas, features information signs, a wildlife pond, and bird feeder and viewing bench. And I'm thinking, Chris, if we ever get the opportunity to, we're going to have to try to go do that and, just kind of energetically feel out the area, and do some sightseeing, give everybody kind of a nice, video edit of what the area might be like and explore some of the lore and energies and maybe do a live ghost hunt in the canyons for everybody. I think that'd be fun.
Oh, I think that would be awesome. Going around in the canyon itself. Dispelling some of the myths surrounding it. Because I know, like I said, the Apache try to spook people away from certain people, certain areas. I'm not trying to dump on the Apache. I respect them immensely, but it's like
Hmm.
they're trying to keep people away from a certain area by trying to create certain things surrounding there. But I know they know about the reptilian presence, but at the same time, integrating the original myth in there and integrating the ghost hunting techniques, I think would be a fascinating
Oh,
show at some point.
we're gonna have to try to do that at some point. That would be fun. I'm already thinking about it. It'd be
Mm.
be very, very. It might be one of the more energetic places I've been to, maybe per se. I just feel like it would be a very, very amazing place to do something like that. But I'll dive into a little bit of legend real quick, just to give everybody a little more in-depth view of the legend here, real
Mhm.
quick. This is also from the ArizonaStateParks.com. They just wrap it up real good. Legend of the Lost Dutchman. The superstitious mountains and the name inspired by Pima Indian legends have been a source of mystery and legend since early times. The area is dotted with ancient cliff dwellings and caves, many showing signs of former habitation. It is not certain who these people were. Some believe they were Saldo or Hohokam Indians who populated this area of Arizona several centuries ago. And you remember the Hohokam, we've seen the Aconcagua Park there in Phoenix there, all the dwellings that they carved in the side of the mountains, amazing peoples. Uh, Later, Primas and Apaches, some of whom may have been Yavapius, occupied parts of the region. However, the name Apache came to be closely associated with the superstitions, and the mountains became an Apache stronghold in the 1800s. During the 1840s, the Peralta family of northern Mexico supposedly developed rich gold mines in the superstitions. Their last expedition to carry gold back to Mexico occurred in 1848. According to legend, the large party was ambushed by Apaches, and all were killed except for one or two Peralta family members who escaped into Mexico. This area is known today as the Massacre Grounds. Ooh, that would be a good area to probably do the hunt.
Mhm.
A number of other people were supposed to have known the mine's location or even have worked it. Numerous maps have surfaced over the years only to become lost or misplaced when interested parties pressed for facts. Men who claimed to have found the Peralta mine were unable to return it geez, I can't talk today. Peralta mine were unable to return it, or some disaster occurred before they could file a claim, all adding to the lore of the lost mines. There's been back and forth arguments, for ever since this mine came into existence and the
Yeah,
lore
nobody
started.
else can re-find it after they find it again. Like they'll even mark it on a map and they'll get confused and not be able to find it. That usually associated is with some kind of telepathic activity, confusing them as to the location of something, or something's masking something, or something messing with them. That's usually a sign of that to a certain extent.
Well, and that leads to the Dutchman here. Jacob Waltz himself, actually a native of Germany, was said to have located the mine through the aid of the Peralta descendant. Waltz and his partner Jacob Weiser worked the mine and allegedly hid one or more caches of gold in the superstitions. Most stories place the gold in the vicinity of Weaver's Needle, a well-known landmark. Weiser was killed by Apaches, or according to some, by Waltz himself. In failing health, Jacob Waltz moved to Phoenix and died some 20 years later in 1891. He supposedly described the mine's location to Julia Thomas, a neighbor who took care of him prior to his death. Neither she nor dozens of other seekers in the years that followed were able to find the Lost Dutchman mine. Subsequent searchers have sometimes met with foul play or even death, contributing to the superstition and legend that surround these mountains. Many versions of the Lost Dutchman mine story exist, and several books and films have been done on the subject, and they said it right there. There's been so many books and films and poems and information about this that if you want to feed yourself fancy, you can.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's a fascinating place. I have gone to a Renaissance fair in Apache Junction that Joanna and I have gone to several times, where it's at the base or like in the shadow of the superstitions right there, and you just feel like this immensity, almost like it's going to crush you or fall on top of you. There's like this big immensity. There's a mix of energies. There's some heavy energies there, but you can feel like there's busy energies up there, up on the superstitions. Like when you're going into the Renaissance Fair castle that they've created there. It's the Arizona Renaissance Fair. I can't remember what time of year. I think it's February, March when they have it, but it's they didn't have it in 2020, obviously, but this year I'm not sure if they did or not. But we in 2019 we went there, and and 18 we went there as well. And when you go there, you can just feel like the superstitions are like literally right there. You're literally like kicking them as you go up to it, and it's this immense energy that's there. You can feel a denseness, like bad things happen there, but then you also feel this other energetic of the land too. There's like this overpowering, more powerful energy of the land there. There's like it's a sacred site, or some kind of sacred energy is there as well. That and mixing with some of the alien energies you're feeling there. It's a mishmash of things. And what I find also fascinating, there's another not necessarily missing object, but it's been a found object. They call it the Roswell Rock. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of this, or the Roswell Stone. I'm gonna see. I didn't bring any articles up here, but I'm going to see if I can actually find it while we're doing the show.
Sure.
I didn't think about it right now, but until just right now, but.
That'd be amazing, a little tidbit for people to know about for sure.
Yeah, let's see.
I don't know about it. I want to learn about it.
Let's see. Here we are.
Oh, nice.
This was related to a.
Oh, there's George A. Sukalis. Aliens.
Yeah, in a show in season 1 of In Search of Aliens, they talk about the Roswell Rock, and this was related to a crop circle that had appeared. Now this stone here.
Interesting.
What appeared, and it had matched perfectly a crop circle that popped up. I feel it was talking about like parallel dimensions myself, because you can see the imagery on it. I personally believe it was talking about
dimensions that intertwine, maybe.
Yes.
Come together.
Yes, and this the Roswell. No,
Here we have.
I did not want a video.
This.
Okay. And that's what I wanted to find, was that news article for. Couldn't find it. Could not find it.
Yes, and this was it was in 2000. Yeah, it was discovered in Roswell, New Mexico in 2004. Now coined the Roswell Rock. This piece of stone is unusually smooth and possesses unique magnetic properties. Even more intriguing is that the motif on the rock, a sequence of triangles and crescents, is an exact match to a crop circle found in England nearly 2 decades ago.
Hmm.
And I find that stone, when they did an X-ray of it, they couldn't find anything on it. They even took a piece of it and did some tests in a series called "In Search of Aliens" with the creator of Ancient Aliens.
Hmm.
And it was a short-lived series. He tried a spin-off series; it didn't quite work. But I actually enjoyed that series, and the Roswell rock stood out as like this artifact that came. It seemed like it came dimensionally, or like it was a message, just like with the crop circle. And I believe the
Mm-hmm.
crop circle message. You have to read these things kind of quantumly and also mathematically, because there's codes that are embedded in crop circles. And what I found fascinating is they were talking about, I feel, not only like a convergence or a shift of energies that you hear people talk about, or the bifurcation of Earth dimensions and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that, or the Mandela effect, is I believe it was also talking about within the message of that stone. Somebody was saying, hey, this was a point of time shift or dimensional shifting. Somebody was kind of either warning or speaking about that subject, and they knew that rock would get passed around by who discovered it. And this guy finds it just laying in the desert, and I find it very, very that subject also very fascinating. It's very rare that you find anything alien made that you can actually pick up and keep like that.
I know that is an amazing find. Obviously, if it isn't created by some super piece of human technology, that leaves it to be one thing, alien in nature.
Yeah,
And
well, what's fascinating about this is they did a test in that show to show if it could be replicated by our own technology.
hmm,
And the one that was created by our own technology couldn't quite get the sharp edges. It didn't even come close. It wasn't sharp enough. It was too out a little bit. When they tried to take the stone away from a rock using a laser, they tried to do it, and it was not exact. The one that
couldn't be cut like it was.
it wasn't necessarily cut. What was happening was the stone was
Shaped
taken
or
away.
whatever.
Yeah, it was taken away to emboss the image in it. It wasn't like chiseled, it was embossed into it. It like came up out of it. They tried to replicate it using a computer, and it didn't come close to what the real one was. Even with our most advanced computers, couldn't do it. So
What the hell?
yeah.
Strange little rock.
Yeah, I find that very, very interesting, and it was made the same way crop circles were done, where it just kind of brought like cut away into the environment. It was made the same identical way they were.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here, I'll get into a few more. I'll share.
All right.
I'll go back here. I think we'll let Isaac. I'll read the Bill ciphers to Isaac, and he can kind of give an update to what he believes with that.
Okay. All right.
I think let's go over some of these lesser known ones. And this one's kind of cool too. I was reading about this. I was kind of down in this area, and it'd be kind of neat to maybe go do some little bit of exploring if you ever have the time. Still lost, the old Ozark treasure cave. In one of Ozark's biggest mysteries, the old Spanish treasure cave in the northwest corner of Arkansas is believed to hold hidden treasures buried by Spanish conquistadors fleeing from Native Americans over 350 years ago. And I was just thinking, when I was reading that first sentence, I was talking to some guy at a local diner there, and he was talking about, missing objects and things of that nature, just on the edge of the Ozarks. Pretty interesting guy. It would have been nice to know more about this beforehand, to see if he knew anything about. But the treasure itself has not yet been found, but artifacts from the time period, such as helmets, weapons, and armor, have all been found in that area. So there's still hope. And these are some of the weirdest archaeological discoveries ever found. So, who the hell made them and who put them there? That's the question.
I know Coronado made it up that far.
Oh gosh,
that far.
can you imagine? I mean, that's just the trek that them. Oh gosh,
Ironically, they mentioned Coronado in the one of the Indiana Jones movies too. So it's like they mentioned. There's of course like it's in the third movie where they have this cross associated with Coronado and all of them. But I had the feeling he made it up to that far.
Hmm.
Legend has, not legend has it, but intuitively, I feel that he made it into Nebraska too, because they found some stuff there as well. And also, just like the Vikings, when they came into this country, they went not only via Oak Island, they came in through Canada, and they came down in the United States, and they made it down here into Arizona because there's some Viking artifacts and also Templar artifacts that have been found down here in Arizona. They found a large cross associated with the Templar. They found a sword associated with the Knights Templar here in Arizona. And they found notes and they found a burial site of a knight that was buried out here.
And see, that's the damnedest thing is I would love nothing more. One of the things I'd like to start doing more is I'd like to get a nice metal detector and start exploring the metal detecting. It's something I love to do. Just never make the time to do it. But the
Mm-hmm.
damnedest thing is I believe that you can't dig in national parks. I just think that there'd be so much in those areas,
Mm-hmm.
because look at they're national parks for a reason. They're absolutely amazingly glorious, and that people were in those areas,
Oh yeah, I would have been in cases like that. An early
yes.
explorer. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the damnedest thing is I wouldn't even mind exploring just to say, hey, I'll patch the holes, whatever I find the park gets to keep, but I'd still like to do it just to see if you could come across something safely. You don't want to get in too precarious of a spot, but there has to be stuff that's been hidden in these areas. But obviously, if you remember some of the 411 phenomenon that always comes along with that.
It always seems to go along with treasure hunting. Missing 411 seem to go hand in hand in some cases, or hunting for certain phenomenon. It tends to go hand in hand. I feel that would be a good show to touch on, would be the missing 411.
We'll have to do that most definitely.
Yeah.
Maybe around the holiday, maybe Halloween, maybe shortly before or after the Halloween season. Maybe we'll keep the Halloween season going with some of
Like
the
with some like ghouls and goblins or creepy cryptids or something.
yeah. We'll have a damn good Halloween show coming up for you here in about a month too. We'll do something real good. But here's another tiny little lost treasure, and just goes to show what we're talking about. A lot of these outlaws have hidden it, places on the edges of national parks or national parks to stay hidden, and away from the law. But still lost, Dillinger's small bills. One of America's most famous gangsters, John Dillinger, spent the spring of 1934 hiding at the Little Bohemia Lodge near Mantowish Waters, Wisconsin. After a phone call tipped them off to the gang's location, FBI agents raided the lodge, but ended up in a shootout with Dillinger and his men. In the confusion, Dillinger apparently escaped out the back door with a suitcase containing $200,000 in small bills. The legend says that he buried the suitcase in the backyard of the lodge. As he was shot 3 months later in Chicago, the hidden treasure remains in Wisconsin to this day. Check out these other hotel mysteries that are still unsolved. So if people want to go to the website and click that link, they'll probably find a lot of pretty cool, creepy hotel mysteries right there.
What's interesting is I've been to the Biograph Theater where Dillinger was killed in the alley across the street from the Biograph Theater in Chicago. I've been there. The energy is really creepy on that
Hmm.
spot. There's like the theater, and then there's an alley like right across the street. That's where they gunned him down. Is right there.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's pretty creepy there. My father took me there years ago when I was a kid. He wanted to see if I could kind of pick up on what was there, and we just parked right out front of the Biograph. And then he told me that eventually that's where Dillinger had been killed.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah,
That'd be neat to go do a hunt there too.
Blackbeard
All
too.
these
You have that.
locations and places.
Yeah, Blackbeard too. You have that on there. Joanna and I went out to. We were near Kill Devil Hills, / Kitty Hawk or Nag's Head. There's like like they're right together there on the East Coast there. And we went into Blackbeard territory, and the energies there are just weird. We went out to the lost colony of Roanoke as well, and it out there a whole different ball game than anywhere like in Nebraska or West Coast. East Coast has its own set of creepy and weird out there, and Blackbeard territory. You can definitely feel that there was a lot more involved out there than just piracy. You can pick up on Blackbeard and a lot of the pirate history out there. Yeah.
Interesting.
hmm
It'd be neat to go see for sure some of the area that he might have roamed and
Oh yeah, and even we
Like-
went up into Salem, Massachusetts, where his head is supposedly at the Peabody Museum in Salem, Massachusetts, as well. We didn't even realize that till we went up there, and they said they claimed to have Blackbeard's severed head. Yeah,
what the world?
yeah,
Is that a business ploy or?
yeah. We were thinking it was a business ploy, but here's a weird. Here, this falls into cryptid territory, actually. In Kill Devil Hills, what we were picking up on is that there was reptilian activity that took place in the times of Roanoke and Blackbeard's time. Even though that's a couple 100-year period right there. I kept picking up. I kept seeing people in my head. I kept seeing people cutting heads off of like reptilians and doing stuff like that around that time. I'm thinking, okay, what am I picking up on? Well, I found this vague, very, very vague reference, which I cannot find again, of a legend of a man who killed a demon on a beach by burying him up to his head and chopping his head off with a sharpened shovel.
Oh my gosh.
And I didn't know that this happened. What I was picking up on, people were killing some of these cryptids and some of these reptilians that they were finding, and they saw it as a demon. So what they did is they buried it. They knew enough to cut its head off. So the fact they have Blackbeard's severed head, and the fact that they were cutting demons' heads off, maybe they regarded him one and the same, or regarded him as almost like a demonic figure, and they cut his head off. So
Interesting.
something to think
Very
about.
interesting.
Yeah.
Shovel off with your head.
Yeah, they sharpened the edge of a shovel and they cut this creature's head off with the shovel, and it was only one vague reference. I've never been able to find it again.
Interesting fact. Apparently, whenever you're decapitated, your brain cells and nerve activity remain active for like 30 seconds. So your head might be cut off and you might still be trying to talk. Blah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's pretty creepy. When I found that out, that's pretty damn creepy. That's not a quick death like people think it is. No.
Yeah, when you like your head was chopped off, just say, "Look into my eyes. Remember my eyes." Blah.
Yeah, you can't talk because the vocal cords get severed. So
yeah. Especially with a shovel. Hopefully, it's a sharp shovel.
Yeah, when I've read that, I knew I'd picked up on something legit. Granted, the event can't really be proven beyond a small legendary paragraph, but
yeah. Just to pick up on, we'll go from one pirate treasure all the way over across to the other side of the United States. Hawaii. Still lost pirate treasure at Hawaii's Palamano Point. Palamano Point, an exposed reef break off Hawaii's Big Island, might just be the site of over 5 million in pirate treasure. According to the book Hawaii's Unsolved Mysteries, Captain Thomas Cavendish was a 16th century English privateer whose career may have eventually led him to bury some of his extensive silver and gold riches at the point. Modern day explorers have tried to locate the hidden treasures or even the wreckage of the captain's ship. So far, both endeavors have failed, but any excuse for a holiday to Hawaii, right? These world famous sculptures have hidden mysteries. There's another cool article that'd be neat to click on and explore. But the thing about pirate treasures and ocean treasures, obviously just the mystery of the deep blue sea. Look at how hard it is to explore down there. So that's a fascinating thing with that. That's why I wish that we'd be exploring Earth more than, spending all this millions of dollars into space, even though, I'm a firm believer that if space is the race, we need to protect it, because if we're reaching out into whatever regions, hooray. But there's still so much about Earth that remains unknown and unexplored, and so many mysteries and treasures that have been forgotten and lost. But that's why, humans are driven to find the answer to those mysteries and unlock the key to maybe finding a possible treasure. But
What I find also interesting is some of these treasures had made their way into other dimensional layers as well, where different beings have taken some of these treasures and put it in their own dimensional pocket, or
yeah.
they've tried to lure people into an area to capture them. This also happened in the superstitions, but also happened on the East Coast in the area of Roanoke.
Hmm.
Whereas people saw prior to the colony disappearing, they saw lights in the water out there. They saw lights in the ocean appearing
Hmm.
out in that area. So it seems like we've said, the missing people and the hidden treasures and also cryptids and aliens sometimes go hand in hand. Not necessarily the good cryptids. Some of these that are doing this aren't necessarily for the highest good, but people like out in Nag's Head, for instance, there's a legend about lights that come in and out of the ocean, and these were sighted in the days prior to the colony of Roanoke vanishing.
Hmm.
Uh,
Interesting. Very
yeah.
interesting. That that's an interesting topic too. Is there? I wonder how much ET so claimed treasure there is. I consider like that Roswell rock. That's about as that qualifies as treasure in my
Mhm.
in my opinion. Out of this world treasure, but it'd be fascinating to find. Like I guess it's about the thrill of the find, no matter what it is. That even simple things like metal detecting. That's why I wish more people would get into it. That'd be an amazing thing to do. There's nothing like unearthing something that's been maybe lost to human touch and sight for thousands of years. And then you can just combine it with things like you were saying, who knows what the hell you might come across. When you get out in the middle of nowhere, it's a lot different than going to a city park. And even though there's creatures that hang out in the city park too, most of them are human being creatures. But yeah, that is just one of the things that come with the territory. But would Isaac like to pop through and give a little bit of knowledge into some of these other treasures that we'll talk about?
Yeah, I thought there was one more that you wanted to touch on, though. There was another.
Uh, I think we might just have Isaac give a little bit of information that there's a couple that I think Isaac might be able to kind of
Okay.
dive into for
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah, and I also made it so that he could come through easier. I made a device that here I'll show it to everybody. That I used his original skull, and I made this thing.
Oh yeah, that's cool. And hey, if you ever need any energy molds, that's the man to make them right there. He
Yeah,
does
this
good
this
work.
thing here, it's basically an interface, and to cut through the interference. I know you can't see it because of the virtual background, but there's only two of these in existence. One somebody bought from me, and there's this one.
Nice.
So yeah, well, it was using Isaac's original skull, and I had to get rid of that because it had been overrun. It was military and all that were using it as too much of a negative interface, using their own sorcery. So I had to use something that was Shungite based to make it
Hmm.
safer.
Nice.
So yeah, and also there's this crystal that I use
Oh
for.
yeah, that's nice.
Uh,
And
so
speaking of obelisk,
yeah. Oh, yeah. It's very similar in its own way. Yeah. Obelisk. Yeah. So the energy frequency went up immensely when I put this over here. So that skull over here. So let's see here. Okay, Isaac. Yes, I'll shut up. Okay, let me see. Yeah. What did you want to? Which one did you want to talk about, or do you just want to answer questions?
yeah.
Go on something. Okay. Okay. Yes, indeed. Yes, this is Isaac. Despite his here incoherent ramblings, I will continue on with this subject. Yes, the hidden treasures is a fascinating subject from not only alien artifacts, but hidden cities, hidden objects such as coins, such as other hidden treasures, such as your basic pirate treasure and treasure marked with an X, marking the spot on a map. A lot of these things, some of these things actually were created to sometimes throw people off away from an opposite space, on a map to where possibly there was like some alien city artifact or whatnot, or from somebody who wanted to divert them away from a cache of gold. In some cases, your Dutchman mine legend was something very similar to this. He did indeed exist. The man did indeed exist, but also all of the other above do as well. He did indeed find a cache of gold, some of which the US government located several years ago, but the Apache also laid claim to this. But at the same time, there is still a cache of gold out there, but it is embedded way into the Superstition Mountains in a place that people do not think to look. You see, where the Dutchman was saying that he was going, yes, he had a large cache there, but there is one that's even larger, that's further in, that the cabal and militaristic corporate arms, let's just say, are actually in the process of mining the opposite side of, but there is enough left of it that people could claim it. Now, in their control, they do have some people capable of seeing with their own eyes gold deposits. They try to recruit people such as this because their equipment cannot always pick up on gold. It has to be closer to the surface for their equipment to get it, or close to the wall of a military base where they can either see with these people the energy signature, which would glow blue and purple in a luminescent rainbow coloring to their eyes, or the plants would glow in a particular way energetically, be more vibrant and green and in their reds and purples. They have to be close to the gold to detect it. This is why the government tries to confiscate gold and also tries to get people to send their gold in, because they constantly use it for their equipment and they trade it to different alien races. But they do not yet know of all of the caches of gold or all the hidden treasures that are out there. So there are some, just like in your Philippines from World War II. There was a program about this recently where there's lost gold and treasure. That one, I must say, though, has been located from underground by some military forces already. Not all of it. There are some little caches that they have disregarded. But there are plenty of treasures out there, not only of gold type and coin and treasure types, such as suits of armor. There are some out there, such as swords, such as other chests of jewelry and such, what you'd expect from a pirate treasure. But there are also lost islands, lost continental encasements, such as places within bubbles of energy that exist outside of your time. And there are places where some of your missing people have gone. I will not touch on this currently, that are also good and not so good places. These treasures exist all over, and even in your own backyard. There are some parks and some of your own backyards that contain some of these treasures that people walk over every single day and do not yet know that it is there, because it is such a small, obscure reference that people do not think to look. So now I can go into questions.
Yeah, I would like you to dive on in and let's share with the viewers about the Beale ciphers and maybe give what you believe might be behind this mystery. Still lost, the Beale ciphers. Thomas J. Beale came across an abandoned mine full of gold, silver, and jewels in Santa Fe, New Mexico during the early 1800s. Beale, along with 30 other adventurers, transported the goods to Bedford County, Virginia, and buried them. He then created 3 ciphers, encoded letters detailing what the treasure was, where it was located, and the contact information of the people that helped him bury it. Beale put the leaders in an iron box and gave them to a friend, instructing him to only open them if he hadn't returned in 10 years. The ciphers were eventually published in 1885, but only one has been cracked. The second cipher detailing the fabulous contents of the hidden treasures. Its cipher key, the Declaration of Independence. So far, investigators have been unable to crack either of the two and find the treasure. So it just goes to show, go into detail about ciphers when it comes. I know that we talked about ciphers a bit, but when it comes to buried treasure in ciphers, is some of this language been alien possibly with certain treasures? I don't know about the Beale ciphers in particular, but I know that certain ciphers have been the key to unlocking where certain treasures might be buried.
Yes, as far as the Beale ciphers goes, some people believe it is a scam, but I can tell you that it is not. He detailed in such a way that certain references as to what the last two ciphers mean have been lost to history. They were more of a, as you would say, an inside reference between a small group of people. But yes, there are ciphers that have alien references into to them, so where people know where alien artifacts are. Some of which have been found and cracked by some Cabal cipher analysts, but there are some that are so obscure to where like the Beale ciphers, they are so obscure that the treasure would only be able to be found by a small, knowledgeable group of people. We are not saying, and I am not saying that it will not be found. I'm just saying that the reason that those were not decipherable is some believe that it was a scam that he put them in the newspaper to actually get publicity at the time. Just like the pirate Gaspar, some people thought that he was a scam, but
Hmm.
no, he was a very real person. Even though there was some things he added to his name, let's just say to make it sound more glorious and more epic. But aside from that, the Beale Ciphers treasure is a very real treasure. They're in Virginia and beyond. There is a slightly larger cache than he let on. When he discovered the cave, he was astonished by what he found and needed help getting all of the treasure out of there. But did he clean out the cave? Not completely, because even with his people, he could not completely clear out the cave. So there is still some left there as well in small quantities. But the treasure he did bury did exist. He wanted to make sure that it did not get into other pirate-like hands or in the hands of government so that they would claim it. This is also another reason he created the cryptic cipher. So only he and friends and family would know where it is. Can I say it's been found? No, not in its entirety, no.
Hmm. Thank you. And let me ask you a little bit more about some outlaw treasure. Let's go with none other than Mr. Jesse James himself. Somewhere in Oklahoma, most likely somewhere in the vicinity of Robbers Cave in the Wichita Mountains, there is said to be over 1 million worth of hidden treasure left behind by Jesse James and his band of outlaws back in the 19th century. There are hundreds of tales about the James's gang's exploits, all ending with essentially the same words. He left that treasure behind in the Wichitas, and it's never been seen again. What we do know is that Jesse James is the most notorious criminal from Missouri. Isaac, would you dive in not only into Jesse James, but any other outlaw treasures that might be hidden, and what made all these outlaws choose to live that sort of a life?
It is the same as pirates, you see. They were hiding them not only from other pirates, but from governmental agencies at the time and from authorities and anyone else that would steal their treasures. As for the Jesse James treasure, yes, it is still in existence, exactly where he kept it in the robber's cave. They sealed it off and buried it quite deeply, but they did not just keep it there, you see. They scattered it into different places. Think of it as a form of compartmentalization. No a thief or smart thief would place any of these objects and treasures in one place. Just like even Blackbeard himself had his own buried treasure that people do not yet know about. Also, a lot of the different pirates and other thieves in history, and also some of the gangs, when they did not spend it on booze and women, that is, they buried it in very different places, sometimes even very small caches of coins and gemstones and possibly even gold objects and silver and other stones. They scattered them in different places. The Robbers Cave, even though it is a well-known treasure site, is not the only site that Jesse James kept treasures. They wanted to be able to go back at places and be able to gain money to move on to a different area, mapping them out to a different area as they traveled so that they had supplies and money as they went along, you see. This was a tactic that some of these thieves in the Old West used, such as, say, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. They were famous for dying in Bolivia. But did they? No, they did not. They actually stole a great deal more than was reported and actually died of old age. One of them died in his 70s and the other died in his 80s. So the legend, they diverted using legendary information in order to make sure they could live out their lives in peace with the treasures that they had accumulated.
Nice. Let's leave the viewers with a little bit of inspiration. Dive in detail on why it's important for them to not only be adventurous and explore, but to why we need to answer the mysteries and find the key to unlock the code to some of these treasures and mysteries.
Yes, it is very important. This gets not only you out of the house to go on your own personal adventure, but as you go on this supposed quest, we'll just say it this way, for these objects, you are not only finding these objects, but in the journey, you are finding out more about yourself, what you enjoy, what your lane is, and what your own personal self truly is to you, who you truly are in that process. That's what the whole original idea of the supposed holy quest was. That and also some aliens were attempting to get people to look for lost objects they could no longer retrieve, such as Hercules, for instance. But in this particular connotation, it is important for you to find yourself on that journey, getting out of the house, getting out amongst nature, and getting out and discovering things not only about yourself, but your environment that are much more vibrant than you ever could have imagined. Also, figuring out these treasures. Not falling in, of course, to some of the OCD mannerisms some have, and have more or less wasted their life on some things. But there are other areas such as taking the journey. Some people will even create their own treasures for others to find, like that other person that you mentioned. Yes, there was a bit of a scuffle in there and a bit of infighting going on with that one. But my point being is, some people make those geocaches for people to find and go hunt down. And in that process, there was a bit of fun and passion and creativity involved in a lot of these different hunts. As for the ancient treasure, this also gets people to discover their own histories, and also where these different cities and these different artifacts actually came from, such as the Roswell Rock, all the way up to some of these ancient cities that aliens had a hand in building with giants and with other large mysterious cryptids and forces that some people have not heard of, but where giants and aliens were involved. It is leading up to the spot where people will discover these histories about not only the planet, but about their own genome in the process, and unlocking the mysteries of their own DNA, and finding what does not serve and what does. This is what is even happening currently, even amidst all of your scamdemic instances of today. You are finding time in some of these instances to go treasure hunting and getting out of the house. If the quarantine has taught anyone anything, having that stripped away from you and taken from you is worth defending.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. That's amazing information. Thanks for popping through today.
Yes, thank you. I always enjoy these episodes, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Isaac.
Okay. Yeah.
Hello again.
Yes. Yeah, it's easier to talk to him with that piece around. So
nice looking piece.
Yeah, like I said, there's only two of those in existence. There, I guess they're more of a mysterious object, but
well, it very well could be. If you buried it and somebody found it like 1,000 years from now,
yeah.
But yeah, it very well could fall into that realm.
Oh yeah. In fact, I may do that before I leave this world. I'll make it a hidden treasure.
You should. You
Yeah.
should. That'd be fun. That's
yeah.
what I should do with all my kids if I ever have a lot of kids. Just bury like treasure throughout the like 3 or 4 different ones and say, if you want it, you got to get out and find it.
What I find funny, this goes into the realm of more Nostradamus. I came to find out that he himself, with his own remains later, he asked a plaque be placed on his remains to the year and the day that these two pirates found his corpse.
Hmm.
And he left a message for them,
Hmm.
seeing them along the time stream. They went in search of his skull. They figured if they drank water out of his skull, they would gain some of his capabilities. They ended up dying, mind you, when they did that. But it was where they cut his skull cap off and used it like a cup. And but on yes, exactly. They did that. They ended up dying from it, mysteriously enough. But the fact was that he left that for his the people that would eventually find his remains.
Hmm.
Which I
Freaky.
found very funny, a good kind of a practical joke he played on them in a way. But I found that a very interesting
Yeah.
story too. That would be a good subject to touch on at some point. Would be the quatrains of Nostradamus. That'd be another
Hmm.
one to touch on. But
Yeah, that's about
uh,
as some of those are freaky as can be.
yeah, I
Uh,
found that very interesting. But yeah, that was an excellent message by Isaac there.
it was. It was very good. That ending part was damn good. Left people with a little bit of inspiration in this shitty world. But
Mhm.
is there any final thoughts you want to pick up on today?
Yeah, it's just important going on along with he said it's important to find those aspects of yourself and become that person you're supposed to be in amidst all this is going on, especially now with all the shit that's going on right now. With all that the governments are pulling, all these people that are pulling around the world, even amidst all these controlled people that are around, you have to stay in your lane and do what you came in to do.
Excellent. I got to pick up on it as well. I just want you to be aware of everything that's going on and make right decisions for yourself and try to stay healthy in this weird world that we're all living in right now. But also fill your world full of adventurous exploration, and maybe get into some of this. You don't have to become a big treasure hunter, but get out and explore, because you never know what you could or possibly find. There's a lot out there. But for right now, I want to thank you for joining. Thank you for viewing today's episode. And you are now leaving the conspiracy sector. Have a good one, everybody.
Have a good one. Bye bye, everybody.